And sometimes I meet somebody that just has one area that you go, wow, that person is an expert in it. I want to bring them on my show. But sometimes I meet somebody who's just entertaining. Whoa, whoa. Some people are just entertaining and fun, as well as educational, as well as have a ton of resources. I don't know what the heck he's doing. I jump into a show almost weekly, met him months ago. We've interviewed before, but I want to bring him on this show to introduce you to him as well. Dan Fradenburgh, welcome to our LA Real Estate Investors podcast.
Thank you. This is really great to see everybody. It's nice to have a crowd to watch as well.
Exactly. That's how we roll here. So give me a quick, and just for those who are listening in, LAREIC.com is the official sponsor, the Los Angeles County Real Estate Investors Association, LLC. We have a live meeting in the Culver City area every second Thursday of the month in Culver City, every second Wednesday of the month in Ventura. And then we do these events weekly as well. So welcome to the call. We also live stream it on YouTube and Facebook. So Dan, first off, where are you located?
I am from the internet. At least that's what I keep on telling people. And mostly because I've done the digital nomad thing. I lived in Taiwan for 15 years. But unfortunately, back in 2017, Kim Jong-un started lobbing missiles into the Sea of Japan. So I took that as my cue to get my family out of Taiwan. And now I am in the frozen abyss of Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, my God. What the heck is that like? Do people live there? Is it? I think just like polar bears and
I gotta tell you, it's I think it's like 3 days in a row. I got parking tickets for my dog sled on the side of the road, and but I'm not sure if I can write that off. Maybe against my igloo property taxes.
It's freezing here in LA. You should know it's rainy and it's 55 degrees. I went out recently, ran an errand. I thought about putting on a jacket. It was that cold.
Yeah, it's 34 here. So that's actually, on the warmer side for mid-March.
So I know you do a lot of things. If somebody asks you, what do you do? What's your, besides the comedy routine stuff, which we all appreciate, how would you describe what you do? I know you're involved with events. I think I met you through Real Estate Investing Rocks, but what do you describe? What do you do is your basic business?
So the way that I usually answer that question is by saying how I got into this business, and that is through the CRM industry. So that would be your mass emailing platforms. But the one that I worked for back 13 years ago, it's a shopping cart software CRM. And so the special thing about that is it accepts credit card transactions, and it's not just a mass emailer. And then when I realized that the corporate ladder was missing a few rungs, I created my own agency helping out different online businesses that were doing more than 7 figures of revenue each year. And then as I was getting bigger and better clients in 2014, I joined forces with an Ohio firm that I stuck with for 6 years, and they were doing single family residential flips. I was watching my boss make more money than just about anybody who I knew, and that made me go, it's like, what's the story with real estate? How does a guy like me get into it? And the problem I ran into was I was remote based. So I knew that flipping houses, it was just too risky for me, losing that local advantage. But once my eyes got turned to commercial real estate and being part of syndications, that seemed like something that I could really knock out of the park with a good personal branding, social media following and audience. So that's the simple way of how I got here anyway. It's through the CRMs and building those funnels.
Got it. So today you have a fairly, I would call a niche or sophisticated business related to real estate investing. That's the 506B.me. Can you give us an overview of what that is?
Sure. And my favorite thing about 506B.me is it's got my fingerprint all over it. It really shows that it's a CRM person who made it and someone who got into syndications and then found out how all this stuff works. Now, one of the big missing pieces of the puzzle, I mentioned moving back to Canada from Taiwan. The issue that I have was I had to find some sort of way to make it so that I'm compliant with the SEC's restrictions. If you're not an accredited investor, then you can only get involved in private syndications. You can't do the ones that are generally publicly advertised, which is a 506c. If you're an accredited investor, then you can be involved in those ones, or if you are cozy enough with a sponsor. But I knew I needed to build a big audience of syndicators and commercial investors, and I had to have the documentation already so that when the SEC audits me, because once you get to a certain number in assets under management, they apparently do audit you automatically. I just need to make sure that I'm being very transparent with my compliance. A few attorneys have described 506b me and my own activities as an abundance of caution, but really a lot of it is common sense. What they really require is they need some sort of proof that you knew any investor of yours, you knew their appetite for risk, their level of competency, what they're really up to in general. You need to make sure that they understand the idea of an illiquid asset. So if there is some sort of issue, then they know that like if they want to fly their kid and their friends to Hawaii or something like that for their Sweet 16, the answer is no, because your investment is probably used in CapEx. So it's like a refrigerator in unit 21A, and it's a balcony repair on, whatever other unit. So that's why I had to make sure that I had a really clear way to have a record that I knew I put that effort into understanding somebody's situation before I started doing business with them. And that's why I made this platform. It's specifically to show the SEC what's going on and show that I'm not just trying to cheat grandma, I guess would be the more pessimistic way of saying it.
So there's a product you built as a real estate syndicator so that you could attract funds from investors and be compliant. And it was so good, offering it to real estate syndicators. The reason why, and some of the people in this call go, well, I'm not a syndicator. Why am I interested? Because I believe he has unique perspective on first-time investors getting involved. He went through that path himself. And so that was really why I invited you on today, is to share that piece. How do I go from zero investments, to one, to a life of passive income is really the question everybody who starts asks. So let me ask you that question, because again, I know that's not what you are today, and that's not your business today, but you do interact with a lot of people that question. I see you on, for example, the Real Estate Investing Rocks group. How does somebody go from zero? I have money, but I have fear, I have anxiety, I have nervousness, I have all that. How do I go from zero to one deal, happy, celebrate, and I get passive income?
Great. So at the risk of accidentally enticing investors, which you're not supposed to do, especially if you have a 506b deal going, the most important first step is like the social media outreach and building your audience. The term audience, I don't think is a great one. It's just the one that they use in the industry, because really what it is you're building a network rather than an audience. An audience makes it sound like, you're a rock concert and people are going to pay tickets just to watch you do whatever it is that you do. And
nobody's going to do that with you or me. Let's get one thing clear.
Right, exactly. So the part about building the audience, especially on social media, the best way I have ever heard it put was at first you're talking to nobody, and then you're talking to a few people that you kind of know, and then it starts to turn into, people saying, oh my goodness, I'm talking to you and I'm so excited about it. And you're just going like, well, you've got a lot going on. Why are you excited to talk to me? It's a pretty wild thing, but consistency is the currency, I'd say, when it comes to building that network. It's people will choose you if they have learned to expect your presence and they know that you will deliver time and time again. And that's what you're really trying to prove to all these different investors, syndicators, and operators. It's like you're the guy who will still be there, or gal, whatever
How would you advise somebody who's on the other end of the deal? They have money to invest, they should get started investing and do their first deal as a passive investor. What should they look for? I appreciate you're saying I should be consistent, create an audience, knowledgeable, reliable. How does a first-time investor evaluate people to make the decision as to when to get started with?
So the one that I always look for, and I think it's because I took engineering in college, I always look for conflicts of interest. And the best place to avoid a conflict of interest is to talk to the passive investors, talk to the limited partners, say, hey, how's the reporting? Like how good is this sponsor at responding to emails? What's the quality of the reports? Like, do you find you're in the dark until you get an email saying, oh, well, we didn't hit our numbers, we got more vacancy we're supposed to, and by the way, we need another $250,000. Like that's the kind of bad experience you want to avoid. But like earlier when I was saying, at the risk of enticing investors, you actually got right on the best track I've found after surveying all the different people I've spoken to, which is many people go for the coaching route. They go to a guru or a coach or something like that, and that's how they learn. But a lot of syndicators lament the fact that people are dumping their 15K, their 25K, whatever it is, on coaching, when you could, usually for a little bit more than that, like around like 50K, 100K, 150K, and so on, you could get a passive position in a syndication. And then you actually have the right to turn around to the people who are running the building that you're a part owner of and say, hey, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with that? And if this happens, what would we hypothetically do to deal with that? And you still have, like, I'm coming, when I give this recommendation, I'm saying it from my teaching experience, which is knowing what does it take for somebody to actually bother to learn. I taught English and I learned Mandarin, and it's like that's a prime example of something where you have to keep at it if you're going to have any success. And so the same goes for learning how syndications or how multifamily properties work, these different properties. You have to know how to learn it in a way that will work for you personally. So you could do the coaching route. I do find a lot of coaches try to add more mystery to the entire process than it really ought to be. But I like the idea of vetting sponsors. You can actually Google for vetting a multifamily sponsor, vetting a commercial sponsor, and get some really great content and pay nothing for it. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. I agree. One of the avenues I tell people, I do think that if you pay something, you pay attention. And so the problem is many times you go to a conference to learn, you've just been put in a lead funnel, which is just about you investing more and more. There's one company that had some good training, but to them, the purpose of the training was to sign you up to a $3,000 investment club. And it's like, I'm not looking to be an investor. I'm a real estate broker. I invest separately, not in that, but in other things. So where do you go? Where can you make small investments? And one of the challenges is it's hard. Most projects, 50,000 minimum, 100,000 minimum, if they'll take unaccredited investors, and even accredited investors, 50 or 100. I often tell people, why not put in $5,000 with Grant Cardone Capital? Not because it's the best investment, but he does a good job of all the reports, the paperwork. You get a free ticket to one of his events. He's explaining what the hell he's doing. And for $5,000, you'll get $5,000 back, probably. I don't know, probably that and a little bit of return, but you'll get education if you're paying attention. But if you're not paying attention, you're not going to learn anything anywhere, right? I know you're also on the faculty at the Real Estate Investing Rocks Spring Virtual Summit. Tell me about your role with that and why you participate.
Excellent. So I was a friend with Angel for a couple years before I joined forces with her, and we get along because she calls a spade a shovel. She doesn't beat around the bush. She doesn't believe in robbing Peter to pay Paul. And for me, that is the price of admission for my friendship. If I think that, you're the type of person who can cheat somebody and, they think like that's some sort of a virtue, then that's, you're not going to be friends with me. I'm not going to hang around with you. And there's a chance that other people would find out about it as well. But with Angel, working with her, the main thing is, Jason is the underwriting extraordinaire, and Angel is the front man, for lack of a better term. And she's also the connection person to build that entire network to make the syndication business work. And every business needs some guy who will take care of the web assets and build the online funnels and segment the lists, build some sort of creative elements, copywriting and all that kind of stuff. And so originally, when I was hired on last year, it was as the CTO, just like at my previous gig in Ohio. But more and more, I'm trying to reconsider what's more appropriate. But over here in Canada, my tax status is that I'm a promoter, which is obviously true. It has a lot more to do with the web assets. That's the promotion part, but that's mostly what I'm doing for REI Rocks is figuring out promotions and also figuring out what sort of content, themes, and things like that are we going to be putting out there online.
Well, cool. And so there's a link there to it. She does a great job. We've interviewed Angel, and I think the thing about her is, she makes it fun. She makes it interesting, exciting. She's created a sense of community. And the program she has, I know a lot of her colleagues think she should do away with the free version. I do know that you can pay more and have maybe I think record access and a little bit more for a few more add-ons and such. And like anything, like any business, of course, they want to offer more and charge more. But that said, the whole summit's available for free virtually. And it's coming up on March 23rd and 24th and 5th. It's a 3-day program. And I attended the last couple of times parts of it, and it's really good stuff. And I know a lot of the community. I know it's fantastic. It's a great place, particularly if you're brand new looking to start. It's a great place for you to kind of get involved in and learn some of that. And then from there, you can decide if you want to, invest in other programs, invest in other systems and things like that.
That's excellent. And the VIP is the upgrade to the live sessions. So the free tier, it has pre-recorded sessions, and we actually have what's called the REI Rocks Review, which is every Friday at 11 Eastern, 11 in the morning. And we review the previous summit sessions, just one at a time though. And then just in Twitch format, we pause it whenever we have something clever to say. And I think it's a really great way to get used to consuming pre-recorded content for your education, because we also watch it at 1.5 times speed. And if anybody in the audience is like me, where I always watch my content at 2 times speed on YouTube, I find live events to actually be a little bit on the frustrating side, because I wish people would spit it out faster. So it's a really great thing they have there. And of course, if you have the VIP subscription, then you get access to all the previous summit recordings, and you get access to the live sessions. And I think that's important because it gives you an opportunity to prepare your questions for the speakers. But the biggest thing that stands out, and I know I'm going on and on about this, is that because the guests are active syndicators and they never have a full, plethora, a full array of coaching products, the type of information you get, it's vastly different. You'll get a syndicator on there or an operator or some sort of sponsor, and they'll want to keep it simple for the people who are just starting, but the people who are more experienced will get a little bit bored. So we'll always get a bit into the weeds by the end of a presentation, a round table, or something like that. And that's why I think it's such a valuable educational option, is because they're not trying to make it sound like, oh, well, this is the secret that nobody has figured out except us about real estate, which has been going on for a few thousand years. So it's kind of a tough pill to swallow, that there's a lot of mystery really left, right? So,
I feel like that's me. That's why I don't do paid coaching. I used to, because the truth is, the key to success, the shortcut The easy way is to work hard every day. If you just do that, then the rest gets easier. If you're hard on yourself at the beginning, you have an easier ending. But if you try to avoid the work, and I get asked all the time, what's the easiest way to get started? I don't know. I didn't do it, and I wouldn't recommend it. So good luck with that.
Yeah, it's all it's the extroverted side that is the work that you need to do, which is you have to be talking to people. So if you're really introverted, really private, you like to keep to yourself, like a developer kind of person who works remotely, it's not so good. You really need to get into a habit of meeting up with people and joining events like this on Zoom or in person. It's so vital to get somewhere in this business, and people will choose you. I think you mentioned earlier that I've got some pretty wild stuff out there on my YouTube, and like that should stop people from liking me and making it very difficult for me to get ahead. But even that didn't stop it. So that's why I'm so confident that anybody actually starts posting out there, there will be people who become your tribe. And that's why I think it's so important to get started and interact and engage with people.
I mean, by my nature, I'm very shy. My favorite activities are reading books and swimming, but I force myself to talk to people. That's how I get paid. That's how I build a business. And it's how I contribute and help other people is by participating and engaging. So I always tell people that the more people you talk to, the more money you make. It really is almost as simple as that. But you got to get into action and get out there. Hey, look, this is meant to be participative. I could talk to Dan. I talked to him this morning. I could talk to him all day long and have a great conversation. And I'm not past doing that, but feel free to, number one, network here, put your contact info. There's no charge. There's no shame. I love it to see it. Remind me who you are. Remind me what you do. I get asked for referrals all the time. Love to have you participate. If you're watching on the live stream on Facebook or YouTube as well, put your contact info there. And as well, if you want to ask questions, I'm watching the chat boxes on our social medias. While we're live, I'll for sure try to answer them. And then even after the fact, I'll come back to them. So please participate. And then last, by way just of advertisements, again, this official podcast of the LA County Real Estate Investors Association. I was last week on Thursday at the event in Culver City. We're going to do it again on the second Thursday in April. And really exciting guests. Let me get the screen up here. Cliff Gagers on top of how to do wholesaling. And that's for you Thursday night, April 13th. 6:30 to 9:30, and that is free $99. That's the same price as the webinar, free and 99 cents. Free 99. It's actually free, but I just think it sounds more fun to say free 99. So cool. I'd love to have you guys come there. And if you come there, please come and say hi and all that. Okay, so who's got a question for Dan, or if not, comment, or if not, I'll just continue. So Dan, while we're waiting, giving people a chance to jump in, what do you see as the thing that holds people back? You must see, because I know I've been on your podcast, I've seen you talk, hundreds of people say, Dan, I want to get started. And you tell them what to do. You kind of draw the map, you get on the road, you draw a little map, go here, go there, go there, and then they never come back. What's the thing that you see that holds people back?
Well, it's a personality thing. We were mentioning the extroverted, introverted side of things. And then I think so much of it is self-selection paired with that part. So if somebody doesn't give themselves permission to make this work, then it won't. You do have to have specific effort, and you also have to understand, like so much of this, I think, is understanding what is actually realistic and what the play is. Like it bugs me a little bit when you hear coaches, talking about get rich quick or anything like that. And just some simple thought experiments will show you why that doesn't really hold water, which is like, if you imagine, kind of like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you had all the resources that you could possibly have, but let's say it was all liquid cash, Okay, well, if you could own anything out there, the only things that you'd really be interested in owning or taking responsibility for would be things that are profitable. So what does that mean? It means people with resources are picking up the profitable businesses, and everybody else is left to, what do you want to say? Like pick up the scraps. And so really, if you're trying to control cash flow, you have to understand that the play is going to be long term. So sure, 5 years, 10 years, you will have drastic, like huge differences in your wealth. But if you think you're going to hop right into this, like immediately after quitting your W-2 and with typical limited, assets to hold you over, you're going to be tightening your belt big time. Sure, you have these investors that are looking for IRR, which is the equity multiple part. That, in other words, you invest $100, and then after however many years, it's $200. But the other number, cash on cash, which is passive income, you're not going to be able to take control of that much passive income when you're in this industry, just because that's not the part that the people with those resources are really looking for. They want somebody to take care of it so that they don't have to. So that's really going to be the play. So I think it's important to recognize that before you get started. But it's all about networking. It's only people own real estate. So you got to be working with people.
Well, corporations own real estate, but corporations are owned by people. So basically, you're right. People own all of it. Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing is that in anything in success, it's about growth. I've become obsessed of late with Elon Musk. I feel like I kind of missed the story until about 6 months ago. And I figured this guy's either one of the most evil people in the world or one of the finest people in the world. Doesn't seem like there's much middle ground there. And I wanted to figure out which it was. And I started studying in detail everything I could read about him and watch him say and such. The thing that I find fascinating, because he's an engineer, first and foremost, is he talks about one of the keys to the way they manufacture cars is they're constantly iterating everything. The faster they can make changes, the faster things can improve, the faster things will be great. And I think that every failure is then the chance to strike that off. We'll try something else. And in real estate, we get so set back when one deal doesn't work or a second deal doesn't work. And we don't realize that that's this process you have to go through in order to grow to be successful, whether it be investing or flipping or wholesaling or buying or whatever it is. And I find inevitably the people who don't make it never offer on a property or offer on one property and get insulted or frustrated and quit. The people who offer at least 10 properties, eventually they'll get one and get started. And they may overpay and lose money the first time, but now at least they know what that looks like, right? And they can get started on the process. So.
Right. And I think what you're getting at is the definitions, like the definition difference of the term failure or losing or even the word no. So if you're involved in something like sales or you're talking to these different brokers to get a property, like no, or if you're syndicating, you're talking to investors. If they tell you no, it doesn't mean no. It means not like this or not right now. And being an entrepreneur is the most multifaceted thing out there. It's just mind-blowing how many things, how much growth you have to do to go from being a working stiff to being an effective entrepreneur. It's really terrifying. For a stint, I used to make the joke that I wouldn't wish entrepreneurship on my worst enemy. I'm relaxed a little bit on that one, but yeah, that's really the long and short of it. Though, is you have to understand that the relationship is more important than the transaction.
Exactly.
So if you're talking to an investor and they say no, it's like, okay, so I'll hit you up when I got another one, right? Cool. Yeah, and just let them know straight out. It's like, hey, you tell me no right now. That is perfectly fine. Okay, just let me know. And that's what you have to be prepared to do. So it's not really a form of failure at all. It's like, oh, okay, well, you rolled the dice and you didn't get a 6. Well, maybe you'll get a 6 next time,
I go to court for probate sales in LA County, and the statistics are, on average you'll win 1 in 4. On average, when I go, it's 1 in 3. I've improved the odds a little bit. Either way, it's good money, when I go. So the last time I went, we didn't win the property, but I had a chance to talk to and meet and re-meet a couple really important contacts while I was there that you would never get a chance to talk to. But they're in court. We're waiting for the judge. So we're sitting down the outside talking and made some really good developments. And so here I lost the bid, but I got some really good business value. And my client said, "I'm really sorry we lost. So, I couldn't bid more than a certain amount." I said, "No, that's fine. This is my business." And even though we didn't win that property, I win the war because I get the benefit. I met that attorney. I literally had an attorney walk up to me to go back to what you said about social media. As real estate agents, oftentimes I get asked, well, how do I cold call attorneys or how do I get to meet attorneys? I was in court. I had an attorney walk up to me and say, "Hey, Bill, I see your podcast. I love what you're doing. I'd like to work with you." Great. Right. So losing sometimes isn't losing as long as you're learning and growing and improving from it.
Yeah, sure. Like you mentioned, spending the $5,000 going to a Grant Cardone event, and it's very similar. It's the people you meet. I just wanted to bring that up again because I find too many people who put on events, they've lost sight of that. They think that it's like, oh well, people, it's my picture's on the front of the ad there, so people are coming to see me. It's like, no, they're not. They're there to see the people who are going to be there. And that's where they get the most value. So if you can just get out of the way, do your thing and still like allow people to do what they actually went to achieve, then they're going to be grateful for it. So
I didn't say I spent $5,000 on Grant Cardone's event. I invested $5,000 in his multifamily. He has like an entry level program just to learn, and you get a free ticket to his real estate event as a result. And by the way, because I'm shy, I sat down. I have an extra chair next to me, empty. Who sits next to me but the number one Coldwell Banker real estate agent in the country, Jade Mills, sits right next to me. And turns out she had listed a property for Grant, so he's talking to her. And then he turns to me and says, "Have we met before?" No, but I guess we just did. Like, what was it worth? What's it worth? At least he met me and shook my hand. Like, I don't know. Some of that magic rubbed off. I mean, I would do it again. So you're right. Your point is, it's not about it's about being the people and being in the right place and participating.
Yeah, it's never a loss as long as your network increased in size. There's good money. Like that's worth very good money to meet more people who are in the right sector.
Now, I've been in real estate since 1986. I've been through some good times and some really bad times. And I think that's just the business where I sit. The bad times, it just means a lot of competitors fall aside and I have to work harder to make the money I need to make. It's not really about me making less. It's about me being smarter, more intense, more focused, and being, right sized for the market that we're in now. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of people, and there are a lot of people struggling. I mean, to be honest, a lot of realtors falling out. There's a lot of investors giving up. What do you see? And then what do you tell somebody who's struggling that it's really their decision what happens? It's not the market.
So the main thing, which many coaches will tell you, like especially if they're teaching you how to drive for dollars, for example, which is how to drive around and look for signs of distress. Okay, so you were talking about going to probate court. It's like, well, there's one right there. It's like any kind of eviction court, anything like that. There are going to be people who want to wash their hands of the property. I have one funny little site. It's because of the skeptical nature of IT and tech people in general. I own realestateisaScam.com. And the reason, right. And the reason for all the videos on there was I was like, I don't want to hide the fact that there are ways to lose your shirt in this industry. And instead of sweeping those issues under the rug, I decided instead, well, what if I do a video about these different topics and explain what full-timers do to make sure that they don't lose their shirt for those exact reasons? And so that's really that. That's the realestateisaScam.com is a reaction for all of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding these distress deals, finding like one of the videos on there that I was.
What is wrong with you? What kind of full-grown adult deliberately eats sushi? I caught my brother ordering sushi to the house. What the fuck is wrong with people? There's no power. Now I say this to people and they go, "What's your problem with sushi?"
Sorry about that. A little slow. It's been a while since we were Zoom bombed. Oh, did I kick him out? Oh no. Andrew, really, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. I don't know what the sadistic pleasure is of Zoom bombing other than disrupting us. Okay, I'm not going to let anybody unmute themselves. And where is Dan? I think I kicked him out by hit the wrong button and kicked him out by accident. No. I hit the button to remove the guy named Andrew who was playing that. And then it says, if not, you can cancel the report. Oh, I don't know. Guys, I'm so sorry. I just hit the wrong button and I locked our guest out. And that's where we're at, I guess. Huh. Well, Jack, I'm usually faster. I had the settings, and I guess somehow they defaulted back to let them do everything. Normally have the unmute themselves unchecked, and that keeps those guys off because they like to make noise. But I think I hit the remove, and because I removed him, I don't think he can come back in. So wow, that's bad news. Okay, and unfortunately, I have to cancel the report. Okay, it's been canceled. Okay, well, Dan, wherever you are, I'm going to call Dan afterwards and apologize. There you go. It's been canceled, so hopefully he's fine. Okay, well, there you go. Sorry about that. Hey, technology. I'll be honest, Therese, thank you. It's nice of you to say, but I'll tell you this. I do think that managing these calls is a skill. It's what I've worked on. I've seen other calls so locked down, people can't participate. And I appreciate the people the chance to talk. Anybody here who wants to, you're welcome to now. I'm not letting anybody else in who I don't know. So let me see here. If you want to unmute yourself, go right ahead. Any questions before we wrap up here? I'm just not really sure what else to do. I thought it was great. I think Dan's just a really bright guy. Hey, Therese, what's going on?
Hey, Dan was fantastic. This is my second call, and I went to a live event last week, and I saw you, and I was going to connect with you before the end, but you were gone. So I'll connect with you next time. You
were at the LAProbate event?
Yes.
Oh, nice. What do you do in real estate?
Wholesale and fix and flips, LA County, Kern County.
Fantastic. Well, if I can help something, let me know. If you come across your wholesaling any probate deals, I'd be glad to try to help you with that. Okay.
Thank you. Actually, I'm reaching out on some probate deals, so I will contact you. Thank you.
Let's talk about that because I have a couple angles I might add in. Do you use probate advances at all?
No, I haven't.
For anybody here talking investors and or wholesaling, if you're talking people who are in distress, a couple common scenarios are somebody died and the person living the property doesn't control the property yet because the title is the name of the decedent, mom, dad, grandma. And the process to change that is probate.
Right.
Now, sometimes they can't change it because there's multiple family members and they don't have control. And there's some things we can do there. Sometimes it's just a simple probate and you don't need an attorney to spend a lot of money. There's some shortcuts we can do to speed things up a little bit. So reach out. But also there's a product I have called Probate Advances where I host a program, getprobate.cash, where we teach you how to advance people $10,000 to pay for legal fees, maybe eviction attorney, maybe fence, clean out, or whatever. So if you need some help with a probate, I have a lot of tools we can help to make that process go more smoothly. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Teresa. And let's see, Winston, I see your hand up. What's going on, Winston, down the OC?
Hey, Bill, actually, you just covered it. I've never attended your probate Cash program, so I want to make sure I got it correctly there on your website or your site, getprobate.cash. And I believe that's Wednesdays. Is that correct?
Wednesday at 8:30 a.m.
8:30. Okay. If we make it, oh, go ahead. I think
Gotcha.
something to say.
No,
That
what
was-
else is
That was
okay.
time or Eastern time, the 8:30.
Pacific.
Okay.
8:30 Pacific.
If we can't make it at 8:30, Bill, if we do, get on there late, do you send out a recording so we can see what we missed?
I'm on that one. I'm not as sophisticated, but I do have recordings of it. So if you miss it, if what I'll do is, I'll just send you. I'll put in the chat box a link. I did a recording of it, and that will give you a flavor of it. The idea, quite frankly, of the live call, my goal with that is get probate cash is to create kind of a working group of people who are working on this together. And so that's really my fantasy. I mean, I'm glad to share the information. Here's a link to this. I basically do the same presentation every week. And then if people come in, it's interactive, and the interactive looks like, hey, I got this client, and here's a question, and here's a question. And my goal would be if I could get 20 real estate agents and investors who are actively looking on this product, engaging with it, then every week you'd have a couple leads that we could work on together and convert. And I'll just tell you, I'm doing 2 of these a month. And, on your own, you can probably get about $500 commission each. I have a program where I can pay you $250 of it and handle it for you. I always say do one like that and then figure it out on your own if you want to from there. But literally, I'm making, $1,000 a month as a paid lead generation technique, meaning I'm not doing it for the $500 deal. I'm doing it for the listing, and I got listings whenever I sell this advance. So love to help you get the listing. Use the Probate Cash as a tool to get there, and come on 8:30 tomorrow if you want to talk about it. But if you should watch the video in the chat box, I put a link to a YouTube video that has the information, and I'll put it on YouTube as well. If you're watching on the live stream, I'll put the link there as well. Okay.
Awesome. And then the second thing is, I would love to learn more about syndications. So if we can invite that speaker back for 2, I would love it.
I know. I will say that the best way is go into check out that program. Where's it at here? The free, it's like a 3-day thing. You have to go to all of it, but he's part of that network of people. TheAcademyPresents.com is the website. I'll put it back in the chat box. The Academy Presents. I kind of got involved with them as a group, and I don't invest with them. I really just use them more as a resource to refer people to who are interested in investing, because I think it's a great format for new investors or people looking to expand into syndicating. So there's 2 options there. There's I want to invest money. Who do I go to as a syndicator? And there's I want to be a syndicator. What do I do? And they have a network of all the different vendors you need to be successful. The insurance guys, the lending guys, the compliance guy. That's what Dan does, is the compliance. So they have all the pieces of the puzzle. They're attorneys, really good lenders that specialize in multifamily. So it's definitely a good network to tap into. And like I said, I just do the free summit and meet some people, and it keeps me busy enough.
Yeah, I'm afraid of the SEC stuff. So if we can learn about that, that would be helpful as well.
I think it's a little beyond this group, and personally, I'm not doing that. So it's not that I don't think it's good or interesting. On Wednesdays, Annabelle's call really should be more about that. And we're trying to upgrade that to more for syndicators. Okay, other questions, comments before we wrap up here? Sorry about losing I literally kicked out our guest today.
But I'm back through a call.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. I think you have to re-add me somehow, because even if I click the link again, it won't. It says I'm naughty and not nice.
Well, I hit the wrong button. The guy was popping up and down on the little sheet. I guess I hit the wrong one. And I'm so sorry. I canceled the reporting. So hopefully at some point they'll undo you. But otherwise, but I've never kicked out the guest before. You're the first one. Dan, how appropriate that you be the first guest kicked out.
I guess I'm canceled. It happened.
Okay. So we were just actually, I was kind of going through, everybody liked you and wanted you back. I said, well, I'm never going to call him back again. I kicked him out. I can't bring him back. Just kidding. Best way to contact you, I think you mentioned for sure I should direct people to your LinkedIn page, which is a great way to contact you and has most of your stuff on there. And then your 506b.me has really the eye candy fillet. Is that picture of you with the Dan scowl? Are you purposely scaring people away from that program, or what's the deal there?
That's funny. Yeah, well, actually, it's. I remember that was a thumbnail that YouTube was kind enough to put on there, and it was actually, you were talking earlier about being shy, but I got my AI avatar to do most of the talking, so I didn't have to. But you got a great point. I should put in big letters, click here. It's fun. Or maybe there's prizes. That's what I'll do, is I'll say prizes, and I'll start off by saying, sorry, there are no prizes.
Dan, as the kind of guy, if you hear about all this AI and chat stuff going on, who created his own face speaking with different dialects. I think it was Irish, or Scottish.
30 languages, yeah.
It was really,
which is frustrating because its pronunciation sometimes in Mandarin is better than mine, and I had to work really hard. And the robot didn't have to work at all. It's terrible.
And also, you are in some regards have the same sense of humor. I own the website, therealbillgross.com, because there's two other Bill Grosses in Southern California who are billionaires who've been on the cover of Fortune magazine, but I'm the real Bill Gross. Just for this.
Excellent.
That's something I think you would do. Okay. Well, I think is there anything else you want to say before we go, Dan? Any last words of wisdom, pearls, or introductions you want to pass on, or promotions?
Really, it's the biggest thing is I just want to make sure that I'm in everybody's circle, especially if you're doing syndications, commercial acquisitions, anything of that scale. And if we connect, I'd be happy to have you on my 15-minute Chance Encounter podcasts, which you've already been on, Bill. And so it's really just talking about your core competencies as they relate to these commercial acquisitions, your tolerance for risk, and your intended contribution. So even if you're totally new to this space, I can make sure that you don't look like an idiot, which is important. At least I think it's important. So if you come on there, then there are other syndicators that can see you. You can get the word out about your business, and people are on the lookout for people just like you.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, to get in contact with him, LinkedIn, I think, is his preferred social media program. And it's Dan Fradenburgh, FradenBurgh. He also has the website 506b.me. And you can also see him on the academypresents.com network program. Dan, I've two claims to fame now. One was my swim coach is a former Olympian, and she gave me a handicap, and I beat her in a sprint. So I can always say I beat my Olympian coach in swimming. And number two, I kicked Dan Fradenburgh off my podcast. I'm just so proud. I'm just so proud. I can't wait to tell that to Angel. Somehow, I just feel like I'm going to get like a golden pass from her from now on. Howard, hand up. You have a question for Dan, or is it something in general? Or we need you to unmute. You're muted. Dan, you're muted. If you're
there. Okay, you unmuted. Now I think I'm good.
Yep.
You muted me. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we're sitting on quite a bit of dry powder, and we're looking for avenues to invest. And we don't have to invest it right now. We want to invest it. And if anybody out there has any, projects or avenues to larger investments in the real estate sector. It can be multifamily, it can be commercial. We'll do very high-end residential only on the coast in California right now and Miami. So if there's any interest out there, we'd be happy to look at it.
Well, thanks, Howard. Appreciate that. And then when you put your contact in from the chat box, if somebody excuse me, has something for you, they should look up here. The challenge I find, well, excuse me, in addition to kicking out Dan, I drank water the wrong way and here I'm choking. What I was going to say is the challenge in working with investors as a real estate agent is, Howard says some magic words, doesn't have to invest. There's nothing wrong with that. Good for him. And I'd love to, if anybody has something for him, please send it to him. The challenge as a real estate investor is we normally want to work with people who have to do something. And so I think sometimes we can end up, I have agents who say, oh, I'm working with an investor. What's he looking for? Oh, he'll buy anything he can make money on. Well, we all would. And so you have to, I think sometimes, what I encourage you to do, call Howard up and narrow down what he really likes. The questions I usually try to work with an investor like him when I'm on the buyer's side, buyer's agent side is, what's your ideal investment look like? What do you love? Where would you love to invest? What product do you really like? Because
that's easy. CMBS debt. We'll buy hundreds of millions of dollars of CMBS debt at a major discount all day long.
Now, did you hear the tonality in his voice there? Didn't that just sound, I want to say told you so, but didn't that sound different than what he said he was looking for? And I'm not saying this to criticize you, Howard. I'm saying to the rest of us, let's train our ears on this, right? Because if you brought him what otherwise might be a great investment to somebody else, he's like, well, I don't know, multifamily in Monterey Park, not my thing. But MBS debt, it's almost like he lit up when we talked about it. Did you hear the tonality? And so the goal when you talk to people is always really find out what real estate investment are they in love with, and then find that. It's hard enough to find that, but at least you now narrowed down to what he likes or really wants.
And well, you asked what I loved. We'll buy warehouses, we'll buy office buildings, we'll buy cold storage warehouses, we'll buy apartment buildings.
Sure.
If the discount warrants it, but that's not what I love. What I love is, large CMBS deals.
Right. And I'm not criticizing you at all. Please don't hear that. I'm just saying from the other side of the table, what you have to understand is when somebody says they would buy something, in this business, the whole business in sales, whether you're a wholesaler or it's real estate, is there's a gap between what the seller wants and the buyer will pay. And you have to close the gap somehow because frankly, if there was no gap, right? Amazon would list the houses, people or properties, people would buy them. It'd be done. It'd be like toilet paper, it'd be like razor blades. But there's a gap. Every seller wants more than they can get. Every buyer wants to pay less. And you, as a salesperson, you do your best to try to narrow that gap to find what they want. And so in Howard's case, or in most investors' cases, in their non-preferred products or geographies, that gap is wider. Because he'll say, well, I'll take something that's a great deal. But if it's MBS, I really want that, the gap is already closer. And so all I'm saying, and again, I'm not knocking him, Howard, thank you for sharing. I'm just the rest of the people on the call, the people watching.
It's a give and take.
Is that the goal here is to make sure that you get people what they want and find out, but to do that, to find out what he wants, what he really wants. So
and I'd love to talk to Howard about that. And I think, so I should also mention, I mentioned my chance encounters, which is a 15-minute format, which is just finding out what you're up to. But if you're not actually into syndications, I have a second podcast format that's even simpler. It's just 8 minutes. It's called Who Are You Helping? And the questions are, who do you help professionally? Who do you wish you could help more? And so that could be philanthropic or professional or personal, whatever it is. How can people help you, and how do people reach out to help in those ways? So getting that scheduled would be a great way to do it. But strategically, when I hear that somebody has dry powder and they're interested in investing, Bill, you brought this up a little bit earlier as well. The main key that the big players know, and I'm not saying that you're not a big player, Howard, just so you know, I'm just saying this for whoever happens to be listening. The difference between what they're up to and someone who's new to the business is they're checking out the demographics of wherever the property is located. So what sort of job growth is happening in that area? How many signs are they showing of being a little bit too hot and overpriced? You know, a lot of people are getting scared of Dallas these days, but outside of Dallas is still ripe with opportunity. But really, that's the real question: is like, how will the underlying business of the property support the investment and the returns that the sponsors are claiming? Those are the biggest things that I think you really ought to learn beforehand. And of course, you guys are all in California. Around the country, California has a reputation for being very, very overpriced. And then the other thing that is part of the reputation, I think that they label it in a way that's not good. They always say, you know, tenant friendly versus landlord friendly. And I don't think that that's an accurate way to describe the distinction, because landlord friendly is more similar to the landlord has the discretion to do what they want with what they bought. And tenant friendly would be, you know, even if the tenant doesn't pay for this, that, or the other reason, you know, that's the landlord's problem. And so that's another reason why a lot of people stay away from California from reputation. But as long as there are distressed properties, as long as people own real estate, there's still opportunity anywhere, as long as you can find it and get it at a decent enough discount, right?
And I think also you have to orient your business for that market. I know I meet people who do really well in multifamily in Los Angeles. It always amazes me. But I'll tell you what, they have a clear strategy and a clear team and a clear set of procedures, and they don't deviate from them. And they have worked their way around those regulations that the rest of us say, I don't want to invest there. And as a result, you know, they do real well. Speaking of a sense of humor, Jack Lapidus, our favorite attorney.
So a couple things, thank you. One is that real estate investing is a lot like religion, in the sense that there are people who are totally into single family homes that they can rent out, and other people are totally swear off single family homes and all they want are 4-unit apartments that they can rent. And some people are totally into LA County, and other people are completely swear off LA County. And they all have very good reasons and explanations that, depending on your mindset, you either agree or disagree with, and they all have the facts to back them up and stuff like that. So sometimes it's just like finding what speaks to you. You know, and I go to enough networking groups, and Bill clearly knows this as well. You know, you'll find people from every walk of life who like every different kind of investment. And so that's one thing. The other thing is that I go to a lot of real estate investing groups in LA County, and there are a certain percentage who will invest in LA County, but there is a large percentage of people who are here who don't want to invest here. You know, I hear a lot of Ohio, I hear a lot of Florida, I hear a lot of Texas. There was one other state, but it's not coming to mind. And I have noticed over the last few years, it's kind of moving around as well. Ohio seems to be like a one that stays, because I have a friend who worked for a guy 15 years ago, and he just loved Ohio, and I remember kind of following that. But you know, you say there's people who they hear LA and like, oh, it's overpriced. It's like that, a lot of those people are here. It's not like they're getting it secondhand. They're here firsthand, and they are like, yeah, LA is just crazy when it comes to XYZ. But it's all relative also. You get higher rents, you know, so it all depends on your perspective, I guess.
I'm one of those. I live here and I invest in Florida and Texas. So
right. So, but of course they measure it with cash on cash rates, cap rates, things like that. And so it's like, well, again, I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were here for that, but the Ohio company I worked for 6 years, I didn't mention they were doing 10 single family transactions per month. So that's if you add the acquisitions and depositions each month, it was about 10 houses. And so like I saw all the money that my boss was making from that, and you know, it was quite something. But I never went for the single family route myself, just because I don't like the investment per unit in single family. I don't like the fact that you know, you're putting in, you know, your $250,000, $500,000 for a house or condo or whatever, and the revenue that comes from it is entirely dependent on a single tenant. So that's why
that's the arguments that people who have multifamily, they say if you have one bad tenant, you still have 3/4 of your money's coming in, whereas if you have single family, and then the flip side of that is, yeah, but you only have one tenant to deal with, which is why when I used to coach basketball, I loved coaching twins because I had one less set of parents to deal with. But one time I had 3 sets of siblings on my team. I literally had 3 less parents to deal with, and the other coaches were jealous of me. And I had my nephew also, and I didn't have to do it. Anyway, getting far afield. That's absolutely, you know, what I was saying is basically it's like religion. Some people are like, I only want to deal with one tenant, and it's great. And then the people on the other side are like, yeah, but if that one tenant goes south, then you lose all your income. And it makes sense on both sides of that fence.
Right, but there's a matter of scale that's the issue. And I was automating for scale, and that's why I was eyeballing it. So I'm not looking at 4-plexes, 5-plexes, 8-plexes. You know, I'm looking at the 100-unit apartment complexes and like around that neck of the woods. So you lose one tenant, and in theory, you've lost 1% of your revenue. But the other big thing is that you're also spreading it apart, all the other people involved in the syndication. So that means if there's a hit, it's probably not going to impact you the way it would if you're relying on fewer units. So like that's where that's what made my decision. But the other problem I have that I didn't mention is I was undercapitalized because moving from the other side of the planet is expensive. And so that was one of the other reasons why multifamily made so much sense for me to focus on. So,
well,
there you have it.
I appreciate the details, the chance to chat a little bit more. Thank you for having the persistence to call back in, Dan. I'm sorry I kicked you out, but I'm just so proud that I kicked out Dan Fradenburgh from my podcast. I just don't know how many times I can say that in the next week, but I'm really looking forward to sharing that information. But Dan, thanks for being a good sport and coming back in today and sharing all you do. I really appreciate you being on and having you today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Bill.
And to everybody else who's left in the call, I know we went a little long today, but Jack, always a pleasure. Howard, nice chatting with you. Thank you for jumping in, and the rest participated. Thank you. I'm Bill Gross. We do this every Tuesday at 3 p.m. This is the official podcast for the LA County Real Estate Investor Association. We meet live every month, second Thursday of the month in West LA. We meet online here every week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We record it live on YouTube and Facebook, and we put it in the Facebook group for the group. So hope to see you there. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Thanks again, Dan.
My pleasure.